You have always sensed it, haven't you? That quiet discomfort in crowded rooms where voices clash like weapons. Yet something deeper lingers beneath the noise, something that pulls at the edges of your awareness. You watch people pour out their thoughts, their opinions, their carefully rehearsed stories, and still the real power seems to slip away from them, flowing instead toward the one who says almost nothing. It is as if an invisible current runs through every conversation, every meeting, every fleeting glance across a dinner table, and most people never learn to ride it. They fight against it, shouting louder, revealing more, hoping volume or charm will mask the uncertainty churning inside them. But you have felt the opposite truth in your bones, the suspicion that the mind kept silent holds a force no outburst can match. This is not mere philosophy or empty motivation. This is the hidden architecture of human influence, the art that separates those who drift through life reacting to the moods of others from those who quietly shape the currents around them. You know the moments I speak of, the late-night conversation that leaves you drained because you gave away too much of yourself in the hope of being understood, only to feel strangely smaller afterward. The workplace discussion where ideas were exchanged like currency, yet the person who listened with unreadable eyes walked away with the real advantage. The relationship that shifted because one partner learned to hold back just enough, creating a space the other desperately tried to fill. These are not random events. They are symptoms of a deeper psychological reality most never name aloud. Your thoughts, when guarded and refined in silence, become weapons of extraordinary precision. The world rewards the loud with temporary attention, but it bends toward the unseen mind that observes, calculates, and strikes only when the moment demands it. This realization can unsettle you at first. It touches the insecurity we all carry, the fear that we have been too transparent, too eager, too easily read by those who never deserved our full exposure. Yet in that discomfort lies liberation, because once you understand the power of secret thinking, you stop performing for rooms that were never truly watching you. You begin to move differently, breathe differently, exist differently. Consider how often you have left an interaction, replaying your own words in your head, wondering if you said too much, revealed too little, or failed to hide the flicker of doubt that crossed your face. That mental replay is your intuition signaling a lost opportunity. Human beings are wired for connection, yet that same wiring makes us vulnerable to those who master restraint. We crave understanding so deeply that we often surrender our inner world to anyone who offers the illusion of listening. And in doing so, we hand over leverage. The art of secret thinking is the refusal to participate in that transaction so casually. It is the decision to become the observer rather than the observed, the strategist rather than the pawn. This is not about becoming cold or manipulative in some cartoonish sense. It is about reclaiming the parts of yourself that the noise of modern life has trained you to scatter thoughtlessly. When you learn to think in silence, you gain the rare ability to see people as they truly are, not as they present themselves. You notice the micro tensions in their shoulders when they lie, the way their eyes dart when they feel exposed, the subtle shift in tone that betrays their real intentions. And with that sight comes power, the kind that feels almost dangerous because it is so quietly absolute. This audiobook is not here to comfort you with easy affirmations. It is here to disturb the comfortable patterns you have accepted as normal. It will walk you through the shadowed corridors of your own psychology and the psychology of everyone around you. You will recognize yourself in the stories I tell, sometimes uncomfortably so, and you will see the people in your life with new, sharper clarity. The tension you feel right now, that slight quickening of attention, is intentional. It is the beginning of awakening to a version of yourself that has always existed beneath the surface, waiting for permission to emerge. The invisible mind does not compete for the spotlight. It does not need validation from the crowd. It operates in the spaces between words, in the pauses that make others nervous, in the calm that unnerves the reactive. And once you step into that realm, ordinary conversations will never feel the same. You will hear the subtext beneath every sentence. You will feel the emotional temperature of every room. And you will understand, perhaps for the first time, why some people seem to glide through life, while others stumble through the very same moments. Now let us begin where all true mastery originates, with the recognition that the loudest voices rarely command the deepest loyalty. In the realm of the invisible mind, silent minds control loud rooms because they refuse to surrender their inner territory. Picture a boardroom on the 32nd floor of a glass tower in Chicago. The afternoon light slants across polished mahogany as executives argue over quarterly projections. Voices rise and fall like waves, each person desperate to assert dominance, to prove their insight matters most. Among them sits a woman named Eleanor, mid-40s, dressed in quiet tailoring that draws no special notice. While others interrupt and gesture broadly, Eleanor remains still. Her hands rest lightly on the table. She listens with the kind of focused presence that makes the air around her feel thicker. When the room grows chaotic, her silence does not signal weakness. It creates a vacuum that others instinctively rush to fill. One man, red-faced and sweating at the collar, reveals his personal financial pressures in an attempt to justify his aggressive strategy. Another woman lets slip her fear of missing targets, her voice cracking just enough to expose the insecurity beneath her polished exterior. Eleanor absorbs it all without offering a single unnecessary word. When she finally speaks, her voice is low, measured, almost intimate in its calm. She summarizes the hidden risks no one else named aloud, proposes a solution that subtly incorporates the weaknesses just revealed, and watches as the room turns toward her as if pulled by unseen strings. The others leave the meeting feeling strangely exposed, while Eleanor walks out carrying their secrets like quiet currency. This is why silent minds dominate. Human beings cannot tolerate prolonged uncertainty. When faced with someone who does not fill the air with their own noise, they project their fears, their desires, their hidden agendas into that space. Silence becomes a mirror, and most people cannot resist staring into it. They reveal themselves not because they are forced, but because the absence of reciprocal disclosure creates unbearable psychological pressure. Eleanor did not manipulate anyone in the traditional sense. She simply refused to dilute her thinking by broadcasting it prematurely. In doing so, she gained leverage that the loud participants surrendered the moment they opened their mouths. The pattern repeats everywhere, from family dinners where one relative's quiet observation shifts the entire power balance to first dates, where the person who listens more intently becomes the object of obsession. Silence is not emptiness, it is strategic territory. It allows your mind to process, to calculate, to remain one step ahead, while others exhaust themselves performing. Those who master this understand that control does not flow to the most expressive. It flows to the most contained. The psychology of speaking less builds directly upon this foundation. When you reduce your words, you increase their weight. Every sentence becomes deliberate, every pause intentional. Most people speak to manage anxiety, to fill uncomfortable voids, to seek approval in real time. They treat conversation like a drug that temporarily soothes their fear of invisibility. But in doing so, they sacrifice mystery. They become predictable, easily categorized, and ultimately forgettable. The person who speaks less disrupts that pattern. They force others to wonder what lies beneath the surface. Consider a man named Thomas. an architect in Seattle, who once struggled with feeling overlooked in his firm. At client meetings, he used to fill every gap with explanations, eager to prove his competence. The more he spoke, the less impact his ideas seemed to have. One evening, after a particularly draining presentation, he decided to experiment. In the next meeting, he presented his core concept in 3 precise sentences and then stopped. The silence that followed was electric. The clients, unaccustomed to such restraint, began asking questions, revealing their own unspoken concerns about budget and timeline. Thomas answered only what was asked, never volunteering extra. By the end of the hour, the clients were praising his thoughtful approach and awarding the project to his team. They felt heard because he had created space for their voices while guarding his own. Speaking less had transformed him from supplier of information into curator of value. This principle runs deeper than professional strategy. In intimate relationships, the partner who shares every passing thought often finds their words losing power over time. The one who holds back certain reflections, who allows mystery to linger, keeps the emotional connection alive and charged. Humans are drawn to what they cannot fully map. Your restraint becomes a form of seduction, not through games, but through authentic self-possession. When you speak less, you also listen more completely. You catch the nuances others miss in their rush to respond. You notice the slight hesitation before a lie, the unconscious touch to the neck when someone feels threatened, the way eyes soften when genuine connection sparks. These observations accumulate into a private database of human behavior that gives you an almost unfair advantage in every interaction. The psychology here is simple yet profound. Words are finite. Once spoken, they cannot be taken back. They commit you to positions, reveal your emotional state, and limit your future flexibility. Restraint preserves options. It keeps your mind free to adapt, while others lock themselves into the corners they have talked themselves into. Observation emerges as the natural secret weapon of the invisible mind. It is not passive watching. It is active, almost predatory attention, trained on the unspoken language that surrounds every exchange. People broadcast their inner states constantly through body, tone, micro-expressions, and the spaces between their words. Most never learn to read this language because they are too busy composing their own next line. The skilled observer steps back and lets the scene unfold like a film. Take the story of Sophia, a young professor in Boston, navigating tense departmental politics. During faculty meetings, while colleagues debated curriculum changes with passionate speeches, Sophia sat slightly apart, her posture relaxed but her eyes alert. She noticed how Professor Lang's jaw tightened whenever funding was mentioned, signaling deep insecurity about his research budget. She saw how Dr. Patel's smile never reached her eyes when praising certain colleagues, revealing quiet rivalries. Sophia filed these details away without comment. Weeks later, when a critical vote arose, she approached each person privately, referencing their hidden concerns with subtle precision. She never revealed how she knew. She simply spoke in ways that made them feel deeply seen. The vote went her way, not through argument, but through the invisible threads of understanding she had carefully woven. Observation turned her from participant into architect of outcomes. The power of observation lies in its invisibility. When you watch without needing to be seen watching, people drop their guards. They perform less because they sense no immediate judgment. This creates windows into their true motivations, fears, and desires. You begin to understand that nearly every human action stems from a small set of core needs: significance, safety, connection, control. Once you can map which need is driving someone in any given moment, their behavior becomes readable, almost predictable. The calm observer holds tremendous psychological power because they are never surprised. They anticipate shifts in mood, detect manipulation before it lands, and position themselves accordingly. This is not paranoia, it is pattern recognition elevated to an art form. In a world drowning in noise, the ability to see clearly through the distraction becomes the ultimate competitive edge. Never revealing your full thinking protects the sacred territory of your mind. When you expose every layer of your reasoning, you invite others to critique, dismiss, or co-opt it. Partial revelation maintains mystery and preserves your strategic freedom. Imagine Marcus, a venture investor in Austin, known for his almost supernatural ability to spot promising startups. During pitch meetings, founders would lay out their visions with exhaustive detail, desperate for approval. Marcus would listen, ask a few pointed questions, and offer only fragments of his assessment. He never explained his full criteria or the connections he was making internally. This restraint made founders chase his feedback long after the meeting ended. They filled the silence with more information, more vulnerability. Marcus built his portfolio by keeping his thinking opaque enough to remain one step ahead. The same principle applies to personal life. When you reveal your complete thought process to friends or partners, you lose the power of independent judgment. You invite their biases to color your decisions. By holding some conclusions in reserve, you protect the integrity of your inner world. Emotional control creates invisible strength because it denies others the ability to weaponize your reactions. The person who remains steady while those around them escalate holds the real authority. Reactions reveal priorities. They expose what matters enough to disturb your equilibrium. Mastery means choosing your disturbances carefully. The intelligence of calm reactions completes this foundation of the invisible mind. When you respond with measured calm to provocation, you disrupt the expected emotional script. Others become unsettled by your composure. They question their own intensity. They reveal more in their attempts to crack your surface. Calmness is not suppression. It is the refined ability to feel deeply while choosing the timing and expression of that feeling with surgical precision. The patterns continue unfolding as you integrate these truths into your daily existence, revealing new layers with every interaction you encounter from this point forward. As those patterns continue unfolding in your daily existence, revealing new layers with every interaction you encounter, a deeper current begins to surface. What once felt like isolated moments of insight now reveals itself as part of a larger psychological landscape, where the invisible mind does not merely observe but begins to navigate the hidden forces shaping human relationships. You start noticing how people around you operate not from openness, but from carefully concealed vulnerabilities. And this awareness sharpens something essential within you. It is time now to step further into the shadowed territory where understanding meets strategy, where the art of secret thinking transforms from personal mastery into the recognition of how minds influence one another beneath the surface of everyday exchanges. In this next dimension of the journey, we explore the hidden psychology of human manipulation, the intricate ways in which people reveal truths they never meant to share, and how those revelations become tools in the hands of the observant. You are about to understand how ordinary conversations carry layers most never perceive, how the unguarded word or fleeting expression opens doors that can never fully close again. People reveal more than they intend because the human mind craves release from its own internal pressure. We are built to connect, yet that same wiring makes us leak information when discomfort builds. Picture a dimly lit wine bar in Portland on a rainy Thursday evening. A man named Jonathan sits across from a woman named Claire, their second date unfolding with the kind of tentative warmth that masks deeper calculations. Jonathan speaks about his recent promotion, but as the conversation deepens, his hand tightens around the stem of his glass whenever he mentions his ex-partner. Claire notices the micro-tension, the way his eyes drift slightly left before he offers a polished answer about moving forward. She says little, tilting her head with quiet interest. And Jonathan fills the gentle pause by revealing more than he planned, how the breakup left him questioning his worth, how he sometimes lies awake wondering if he will ever feel secure again. By the end of the evening, Claire knows the precise shape of his insecurities while sharing almost nothing of her own. She leaves with a soft smile, already sensing how this knowledge might shape their next encounter. Jonathan walks away feeling strangely exposed yet drawn to her listening presence, unaware that his revelations were never truly invited, but simply pulled forth by the vacuum of her restraint. This is the mechanism at work everywhere, in boardrooms and bedrooms alike. When someone creates even a small space of attentive silence, the other person feels compelled to fill it, driven by the ancient fear of being misunderstood or forgotten. Manipulators do not always need clever questions. They simply need to listen without reciprocating fully, allowing the natural human impulse toward disclosure to do the heavy work. You have likely felt this on both sides, the relief of unburdening yourself to someone who seemed safe, only to realize later that the safety was an illusion crafted from your own need to be seen. The hidden truth is that revelation rarely buys genuine connection. More often, it hands over leverage that the listener may use consciously or unconsciously. The psychology runs deep. Our brains release dopamine when we feel heard, but that same chemical reward blinds us to the cost of what we have surrendered. Building directly upon this foundation, consider the danger of oversharing, a habit that quietly erodes your psychological advantage in every sphere of life. Oversharing feels like intimacy in the moment, yet it often leaves you diminished once the words have left your mouth. Imagine a corporate retreat in the mountains of Vermont, where a talented marketing director named Rebecca finds herself by the fireplace after dinner, surrounded by colleagues who seem friendly enough under the glow of crackling logs. Emboldened by a glass of scotch and the illusion of camaraderie, she begins sharing her frustrations about the new CEO, her private doubts about a recent campaign that nearly failed, even the strain in her marriage caused by long hours. The others nod sympathetically, their eyes reflecting the firelight. Yet as the weekend progresses, Rebecca notices subtle shifts. Her ideas are gently sidelined in meetings. Whispers follow her in hallways. By Monday, back in the office, the very vulnerabilities she revealed have become ammunition in quiet power plays she never anticipated. The colleague who listened most attentively now positions himself as the calm problem solver, using her confessed weaknesses to appear more stable by comparison. Rebecca learns too late that oversharing in the name of authenticity had stripped away her protective layers, turning her into someone easily managed and ultimately overlooked for promotion. The danger lies in the illusion that vulnerability always strengthens bonds. In reality, it strengthens bonds only with those capable of holding space without exploiting it, and such people are rarer than we wish to believe. When you overshare, you surrender mystery, that precious element that keeps others intrigued and respectful. You become predictable, your emotional terrain mapped and navigable by anyone paying attention. Human beings respect what they cannot easily access. Flood them with your inner world too quickly, and they lose interest or worse, gain control. The strategic mind understands this and chooses discernment, revealing only what serves the larger purpose while guarding the rest, like hidden reserves of power. How manipulators study human weakness becomes clearer when you recognize that they treat people like intricate instruments, learning which strings produce which notes. They do not invent weaknesses. They simply observe and amplify what already exists. Take the story of a quiet neighborhood in Denver where a real estate agent named Victor began cultivating influence over his elderly neighbor, an independent widow named Margaret. Victor noticed during casual driveway conversations how Margaret's shoulders relaxed when he mentioned family values, how her voice softened when speaking of her late husband, revealing a deep fear of loneliness in her later years. He never pushed aggressively. Instead, he offered small helps, fixing a leaky faucet, bringing her favorite flowers on quiet afternoons, always listening more than he spoke. Over months, Margaret began depending on his presence, sharing financial worries she had hidden from her own children, even adjusting her will to include him as a trusted advisor after he subtly highlighted the unreliability of distant relatives. Victor's manipulation succeeded because he studied her emotional architecture, identifying the voids of loss and security, then positioning himself as the solution. Margaret felt cared for, yet she had been gently guided into a web of dependency she never saw being woven around her. Manipulators thrive by patience and pattern recognition. They watch for emotional triggers, the topics that cause breathing to change, the memories that make eyes glisten, the insecurities that prompt defensive humor. Once identified, these weaknesses become levers. The hidden mechanism is empathy turned tactical. True empathy connects without agenda, but the manipulator uses the same observational skills to catalog vulnerabilities for future use. This is why developing your own emotional control matters so profoundly. When you remain less reactive, you deny others the map they seek. The power of controlled mystery follows naturally as the antidote to such dynamics. Mystery is not deception. It is the art of remaining partially unrevealed, creating space for others to project their desires and fears onto you. In a bustling cafe in New Orleans during carnival season, a photographer named Elena met a man named Daniel at a crowded table. While others competed for attention with loud stories and exaggerated laughter, Elena spoke sparingly, offering glimpses of her world through carefully chosen details. A single story about a transformative trip to the mountains, a quiet smile when asked about her current projects. Daniel found himself returning again and again, obsessed with filling in the blanks she left open. He shared more of himself each time, hoping to unlock her fully. Yet Elena maintained that gentle boundary, revealing just enough to keep the connection alive, while preserving her inner sovereignty. Months later, Daniel admitted the mystery had drawn him in more powerfully than any full disclosure ever could. Controlled mystery creates obsession. Because the human mind hates incomplete patterns, we fill gaps with our own idealized versions, investing emotional energy in the pursuit. Smart people think twice before trusting because they have learned that trust is not a gift, but a calculated risk, earned slowly through consistent observation rather than immediate warmth. Consider a young executive named Samuel navigating the cutthroat environment of a tech startup in Austin. After a promising collaboration with a colleague named Laura, who seemed genuinely supportive during late-night strategy sessions, Samuel began to trust her with sensitive information about upcoming product pivots. Laura's easy laughter and shared confidences created the illusion of alliance. Yet when a promotion opportunity arose, Laura used the very details Samuel had shared to position herself ahead, framing his ideas as joint efforts while subtly undermining his readiness. Samuel realized too late that her warmth had been strategic, a tool for gathering intelligence. The lesson etched itself deeply. Intelligent trust is not cynicism. It is the recognition that most people operate from self-interest, and only time and tested behavior reveal who deserves access to your inner circle. Silence can expose the truth in ways words never will, creating pressure that forces hidden realities to surface. In a tense family gathering at a lakeside home in Maine, a woman named Olivia sat quietly while her siblings argued over their aging father's care. As voices rose and accusations flew, Olivia maintained a calm presence, her eyes moving between them without interruption. The longer her silence stretched, the more the others revealed their true motivations, buried resentments about inheritance, fears of responsibility, jealousies long suppressed. One brother finally cracked under the weight of her unreadable gaze, admitting he had already consulted lawyers privately. Olivia's silence had not accused. It had simply refused to distract from the truth unfolding around it. People rush to fill silence because it mirrors their conscience back to them, amplifying discomfort until concealment becomes unbearable, become difficult to read, and you step fully into the mastery this chapter illuminates. When your reactions remain measured, your expressions subtle, your words chosen with precision, you deny others the emotional data they need to predict or control you. Imagine a seasoned negotiator named Henry in a high-stakes deal in Chicago, facing opponents who thrived on reading body language. Henry trained himself over years to keep his face composed, his posture relaxed yet alert, revealing neither excitement nor doubt. During tense moments when the other side pushed aggressively, expecting anger or concession, Henry's calm unpredictability unsettled them. They overcompensated, revealing their bottom lines and internal divisions. By becoming difficult to read, Henry secured terms far better than anyone anticipated. This quality protects your power because it forces others to operate in uncertainty, the very state they try to impose on you. As these truths settle within you, remember that the art of secret thinking is not about isolation, but about moving through the world with deeper awareness and quiet strength. If this journey has stirred something essential in you, shifted how you see the people around you and the hidden currents in every conversation, know that you are not alone in this awakening. Support the work that brings these insights to light by liking, sharing, and subscribing, so more minds can discover this path. Late at night when the world grows still and your thoughts turn inward, carry these ideas with you. In the next part of our journey together, we will explore another dimension that will reshape how you understand yourself and the invisible forces shaping your reality, continuing this conversation where it matters most, in the quiet spaces of your own mind.